Hello. First of all, I thank you for inviting me. I don't do many of these things, and you may be about to discover why. But no, it's been a brilliant morning. Lots of very smart people talking about very smart things, being us online, joining the dots at Jaguar Land Rover to achieve unbelievable things. We've got let customers lead your digital strategy to come. But first, people like dogs, don't they? Don't worry, I know what you're thinking, but I'm not going to blind you with science. Following on from all of the very smart people, I'm essentially going to take you on a little meander through a thing I did earlier in the year, which will hopefully be of interest and some amusement. It's not just about dogs. In fact, it's not really about dogs at all. This is going to be a brief glimpse behind the curtain as a bunch of well-meaning idiots in Shoreditch try to change politics forever by taking the piss out of it a bit, which is sort of what we do. So it is politics, but I'm not going to come to Brighton, one of the most gloriously liberal cities in the world, and lecture people about socialism because I'm an ad twat and I work in Shoreditch, and the irony would be too much. But what I am going to talk about is the Green Party. They're one of our founding clients at Creature. And I don't, again, need to tell the people of Brighton how good or different the Green Party are, but I think the key word for me is different. Politics is interesting at the moment, and I'm going to try and avoid dwelling on that too much. But the Green Party are different. They want to do things differently. They believe in doing things a different way. They believe in doing things better. So for the next 18 minutes and 13 seconds, I am going to take you through, with the spectre of David Ogilvy looming large over my shoulder, the 10 golden rules of advertising, political or otherwise, and how Creature and the Green Party broke every single one of them. So, first rule, really clear, we all know this. If it matters, run a pitch. There is literally no way of judging whether or not you want to work with people better than getting them all locked in a room together, fighting out over who can make the prettiest pictures and bring out the most interesting biscuits. It drives efficiencies, it drives costs down. And at the end of it, you know, because nobody ever pretends to be something they're not in a pitch, you know that you've got people that you can trust. Or, if you've got people you trust, just get on with it. And there are a lot of reasons. Crew. I've got loads of slides, but they've all got really good pictures on them, so it's going to be fine. The Green Party are a different beast. One of the things that they don't have that every other political party out there does is money. And I would be disingenuous if I suggested that their reasoning behind not running a pitch wasn't at least partly linked to the fact that most creative agencies don't want to work with or for clients that don't have any money. But more than that, I've worked with them in various different capacities for about 10 years now, and it just works. There is trust and there is belief, and I think trust is a word that we bang on about a lot at Creature. And when a project can begin with people walking into your office and saying, right, this is basically our problem, how can we solve it together? Then more often than not, that tends to lead to a pretty good thing. So, fuck pitches. Number 2, have a tight brief. And I think this is an oft-repeated maxim in advertising, the freedom of a tight brief. And sometimes that's totally true. Sometimes the Green Party walk into your office, you're expecting a classic agency client briefing where they tell you what their key messages are and how they want to say them, and you find that you're just sitting there in silence looking at each other waiting for someone to talk. It turns out the Green Party are very collaborative when it comes to picking their political comms strategies. And so when we first sort of sat down with them three years ago, genuinely, the influence I hold over Green Party policy is fucking terrifying. As is probably already becoming clear. No, so that quote that is the title of this speech, people like dogs, don't they? That was a genuine quote from an incredibly impressive and incredibly brilliant woman who leads the Green Party communications. When we sat down, probably nearly 4 years ago now, to be briefed on their party election broadcast for the European elections. And as I say, we sat there and were like, so were you going to... And she looked at us and went, well, I guess people like dogs. Could we do something about dogs? And I'm like, Okay, cool. So you very nearly had Caroline Lucas standing up on a sort of lectern talking about the importance of German shepherds to our European efforts. But no, and again, I'm being facetious, as is my wont, but I think the brilliance of working with the Green Party is they don't come into a room thinking they know the answer. They come into the room with some very lofty ambitions, and they want to work in partnership with brilliant people to help, and me, to try and achieve something. And actually, there is definitely truth to the idea that a tight brief gives you the freedom to do crazy things with it. Sometimes, again, trust, sitting down with a client, working out what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, being there at the very beginning is the most empowering and liberating thing you can do. But some rules you don't break. Make sure you get buy-in from all key stakeholders at the outset. And the Green Party has a lot of stakeholders because of the way it's run. Every single one of its 273-odd thousand members has a say in policy and in how it's run. Caroline Lucas is a brilliant woman. She hates every single thing we've ever done for them. But the comms team recognise that actually maybe that's not what she's for. And I think, there is absolutely a lot to be said for making sure that everybody who's going to have to sign off, everybody who's going to want to have an input is there at the beginning. And if you can get someone excited about something before it's even started, then great. Of course, there is also the reality where if you let people fuck it up at every step of the way, it's really fucked up by the time it's finished. And so the Green Party approach has always been, we know what we're doing, a tight team of about 4 or 5 people. Let's keep this to ourselves, let's keep it tight, let's keep it close, and then release it on an unsuspecting world when we are ready. But I didn't know what everyone else was going to be talking about when I decided to take the piss out of realistic and measurable targets. Again, I mean, there's a time and a place. There's a, if you're a car brand or a paper, then yeah. But sometimes, if you're a political party that is never going to win the general election, then sitting down and working out how many seats, how many whatever you really want to get close to, it's kind of distracting. And I know that sounds ridiculous. That wasn't a joke. First one. There are obviously hugely important things for the Green Party to achieve, and we're not just sitting there to make things that make people laugh and then go out and vote for whoever happens to be rush goalie in the Labour team at that particular day. Still not sure that word is rolling substitute. I know there's a thing in it. But much more than that, the brief from them to us is always, we're a political party that believes in doing things differently. People use political party broadcasts to tell people what they think and what they believe in a way that they hope they will notice, but really that's secondary to us stating what we believe. The Green Party want to get noticed. They want to get talked about. They want to lead the conversation because it's a conversation that they've never been part of. So their brief to us is always as simple as, here is our 60-page manifesto, which sometimes even the party leader hasn't read. It's a Natalie Bennett joke. She's not here? No. Good. And just make something that people are going to notice, because the Green Party have spent a lot of years not being noticed. So when it comes to making those things that hopefully will get people noticed, again, there was a time when politics was nasty back in the 80s and the 90s, and people said mean things about Tony Blair's eyes and all the rest of it. And actually, we don't do that anymore. There's a more gentle type of politics, and it's all about niceness and civility. Or sometimes, as the brilliant woman that I mentioned before said once, I really want to fuck the Lib Dems with this one. Which again, is a spectacular thing for a bunch of excitable young creative people to hear, even if you sometimes have to tell the younger creatives who the Lib Dems were. Sorry, but that was cheap. So lost the thread. So yeah, and again, it's very easy to worry in politics. It's very easy to kind of go, oh God, we mustn't, and we need, and because there's collaboration, and then we've got to be working together with. But again, the freedom of, fuck it, if we want to be noticed, if we want to make a difference, then second guessing ourselves and stopping ourselves from pulling back is is quite limiting. So again, just a wonderful freedom in this. We know who we want to beat, we know who we want to destroy, and we have no qualms about getting out there and doing it. And again, that's another reason why Caroline or Natalie or whoever it may be isn't close, because they're the ones that have to deal with the reality of this. They're the ones that have to sit next to the Lib Dem MPs that we've rather mercilessly destroyed on national television in Commons. And having those views, there's a risk that it waters stuff down. And if there's one thing the Green Party have shown themselves to be, it is people who do not like watering stuff down. But this is politics. And as we all know, if you want people to take you seriously, be serious, because political advertising is a very serious world. Public service advertising is a very, very serious world. Or, fuck it. Laugh and the world laughs with you, make the world laugh, and fuck it, maybe they'll vote for you. And I think, again, telling a political party that they don't get much airtime, the Green Party, telling them that we want to spend a good 2.5 to 3 minutes of the 3 minutes and 30 seconds that the national broadcasters have to give them doing jokes or singing a comedy song. Not many clients will go for that. But again, two key words, different and trust. They didn't want to just be another political party making another vaguely self-righteous, maybe a little joke at the end because you don't want people to think you're all fuddy-duddy. They wanted to do things differently. And embracing that was, it's been vital to everything that we've made for them, but particularly the last piece of work. This might be controversial. If you Google fast, cheap, good, then it throws up literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of images. Why the people who made all these images didn't bother just Googling them in the first place, I don't know. But it reads like a kind of really depressing stock image library of, I can't really be bothered. And again, don't get me wrong, if Jaguar Land Rover walked through the door, I'd expect a budget. But to start out going, you want it quickly and oh no, it's not going to be good then. It's definitely not going to be good. It's just kind of depressing. And I think when we set Creature up 5 years ago, we were bored of being depressed. And we were bored of starting with the problem and then working out why it existed. Because actually, if you have got exciting stuff, if you've got passionate stuff, then you'd be surprised what's possible. So, fast, cheap, good, pick two. Or find a team that wants to make something brilliant. Yes, this is the Welsh Grand Slam winning slide of 2005. Well spotted. Isn't he lovely? We didn't know. We didn't know what was coming. But again, this is the thing, is when you have a client that is desperate to make stuff that is brilliant, and an agency that is desperate to make stuff that is brilliant, and the will and the passion and the desire to make that stuff brilliant, you'll find people. Nobody gets into the industries that we all work in because they want to make shit tons of money, because there are a shitload of industries that make it a shitload easier to make a shit ton of money. They get into this because they want to make brilliant stuff, and I think we forget that sometimes. And I think there's a whole load of reasons for that, but I think sometimes you do forget that actually we're here to make brilliant stuff, that at the end of a really shitty couple of months, you can email your mum and go, this is why I've been so stressed, sorry I called you a cow. And so no, we found a director in Neil Harris who was willing to waive any kind of hope of any fee he might have had. A casting director who was just desperate to do what we were going to do. Production people just they got involved, and you find weird, but you find the odd kind of UKIP supporting grip who wants nothing to do with the filthy Greens and their desire to make the world nicer. But more often than not, if you've got a good enough product and you've got a good enough team getting excited enough, then people will come through. This one I can kind of deal with really, really quickly because it won't surprise anyone, and I've only got 5 minutes left. There was a truth, widely held truth in political advertising, and in politics, actually, until fairly recently, that policies actually mattered. And the last general election threw up a fairly depressing statistic for Green supporters in that they don't. They don't at all. There was a website, I think it was voteforpolicies.org, that did that did a whole load of surveys across tens of thousands of people on voting for policies. And as you can see, if people voted for policies, the Green Party would currently be leading the country, which is in some ways a terrifying, terrifying thought. But again, they're not a party for power, they're an agitator. But again, once you realise that, it's incredibly liberating, that actually people will find the policies they want to find, they'll get excited about the policies they want to get excited about. What you need to do is make people give a shit about politics in the first place, which is not always easy. Moving swiftly on to rule 9. Never work with children or animals, particularly not children. That's Stan, my little boy. He's lovely, but also, to be honest, I am definitely not above using a picture of a baby to get sympathy in case it was going really badly at this point. But no, working with kids when it comes to making things is a fucking nightmare. It's really hard, and it's very hard for very, very good reasons. They can only be on set for a certain number of hours in a day, which when you've got no money and need to make something is tricky. They can only work for 15 minutes at a time. They can't really remember scripts, which when you want them to say specific things can be quite tough. And it's the reason, it's not the reason, it's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why you don't see many 5-year-olds in political advertising. But we had a really good idea and a really good bunch of people who were ready to do it. And as I said, the other option was Robot Wars, which was even more complicated. I suspect lots of people will have seen this, but I'm going to play most of it anyway because I like it.
It's just another day in the world of British politics. Boris is on his way to lobby support from the Blue Gang.
Yay! Look at me! I'm Prime Minister! No, I've got the long-term economic plan. I'm going to flush your economic plan down the toilet, George. I'm going to tell David what you're saying.
Meanwhile, in the nursery, Jeremy is asserting his leadership.
I found this in the toilet. Everybody's saying bad things about me and it has to stop. It wasn't me, Jeremy. Glad that's sorted.
And predictably, Jeremy and David are having another argument.
Even your mummy doesn't agree with your policies. My mum would say, put on a suit, do up a tie and sing the national anthem.
Tim's contemplating the future of his party.
It was Nick's fault. He got really friendly with David, and then David lied to him and he stitched him up.
Some of the Red Gang are in disagreement over their Trident missile policy.
Jeremy, quick! Have you been playing with those rockets again? No. Good, because I don't like people playing with rockets.
Next door, Teresa is getting to know a few non-EU citizens while checking on their paperwork.
Miss Dolly. Right, it says here you're a nurse. I don't think you've got enough money, so get out of the country! Get out! Are you still here? Get out!
In the nature area, the Red Gang are having an important meeting.
Push off, you lot! I'm gonna frack this area! Frack! 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 I can do it! I'm the Prime Minister! Jeremy doesn't like fracking. I'm like, why do you don't like it? Because I literally love it.
It's almost home time as Zach and Sadiq discuss some of the finer points of their housing policy.
Housing's better than you! I can build more houses than you! You can't do that!
Childish, isn't it?
Yeah, politics. It's fascinating watching that even now, just as a historical artifact. Most of those kids are impersonating politicians that we've all forgotten. Theresa May's now in charge and the reasonable one. Cool. Actually, one last quick anecdote. Funniest and most heartbreaking thing about that day was that the little boy playing Jeremy, who was as sweet and thoughtful and kind and gentle as he appears, he really wanted to play with the rockets, and the director wouldn't let him to get a better performance out of him, and so... Anyway, so last thing. And this is, I'm going to break the model a little bit because there's no such thing as viral, just massive hidden media spend, because this is just me being cynical. Because the reality is, more often than not, you need a decent amount of spend to get a thing going. You are very, very fortunate when sort of lightning strikes and you create something that people are interested in and want to talk about. 15 seconds left. But sometimes you get lucky. A quick nod to digital. We launched that exclusively with BuzzFeed, who'd done really good things with the previous things that we did. Sorry, The Guardian. 10 million plus views on Facebook, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. The Guardian were lovely about it. The Sun were lovely about it. Alistair Campbell was lovely about it. The Telegraph were lovely about it, which was really weird. And ultimately, Sean Berry came third in the London Mayoral elections, which is, again, beating fucking the Lib Dems, which made some people very happy. But it's one of the few times in my career where I've been sort of right at the middle of a genuine social media storm. You know, not like now when somebody tweets that they think there's too much Olympics on telly and the papers go nuts about it. This was genuinely everywhere and it was weird. And then my favourite thing of all was a quick trip to Westminster.
2, 1. I literally love Little Liz.
I literally love being in Parliament.
Yeah, she was amazing, properly amazing. So that's that. I hope that's been all right. In summary, there will always be rules. Find the right people, break them, and you might just literally love it. Thank you very much.